Hello, Miss Diana. Thank you so much for taking the time today to meet with me.
Thanks,
I
Marcia. I
so
appreciate it
appreciate it.
for
So
sure.
just to start, do you just want to give a little background about who you are and what you do, please?
Yeah, I'm Diana Martinez. I am an attorney practicing here primarily in Long Beach, but also Orange County, Inland Empire, Los Angeles, San Diego, and Mono County because I like to snowboard. So I got
Nice.
to know the court up there, and so they put me on the panel. So I work with
Oh,
them
that's
too.
wonderful.
And I, in 2007, stopped litigating. I did a lot of family law cases and I stopped the litigation part, which is the court battle. Since that
Mhm.
happened in 2007. And since then, my practice is exclusively dedicated to out of court processes, whether it's as a mediator or
Mhm.
as a collaborative lawyer, primarily in family law cases. That's the bulk of the work that I do. Sometimes I will take on a case that's in litigation as a consulting lawyer. I will act as a settlement counsel to try to help get the matter resolved. The only thing I don't do today is I do not take the case to court. Been
Okay.
tempted a few times, but I do not take it to court.
So what happens if it gets to that point?
Well, if it does get to that point, or let's say someone comes in thinking that they're a really good candidate for collaborative or for mediation, and I identify aspects that really it would be a risky process for them at that time,
Mhm.
I refer them to litigation counsel. If I'm a mediator,
Mhm.
I have to stay neutral, so I can't tell one person, oh, go hire this really aggressive lawyer and you go hire this tame one. I can't do that. So what I do is I can give them websites where they can find litigators who have a minimum level of training in order to be on that website. If I'm a collaborative or consulting lawyer and they need the court to intervene for some reason,
Mhm.
I have lawyers that I trust, that I've literally entrusted with family as well as my clients, and I'll refer them out to them. And
Oh,
if
that's nice.
if it shifts, maybe it was just one issue and now they're ready to return, then I can jump back in.
Okay. Okay. So that's nice to know to be able to do that. So what drew you into be focusing your practice more on mediation?
So I did litigation for what, 8 or 9 years, 98 to '07, something like that. And it was so pointless. I mean, in law school, I always thought I want to do international. I want to do something international. I just don't want to do family law. I don't want to do criminal. And that's exactly where I ended up. I actually started at the DA's office as a law student
Oh
prosecuting
my goodness.
felony prelims. So yeah, when I got sworn in, I opened up my own office. So it's kind of like, what is it? You eat what you kill, right?
Right, right.
So pretty much anything that walked in the door, and a lot of it was family law and in criminal defense. And there were certain things about family law that I actually really enjoyed because this is meaningful. This is families. You're affecting their future in every way, financial,
Right.
relationship. What I didn't like was it was it was so pointless. Nobody was trying to truly figure out a, a balanced solution that made sense for the family. It was all
Hmm.
jockeying the law and the facts and how can we play around with the numbers. And it was just the most destructive way financially and in terms of relationships to resolve these issues. So it got to the point where I almost retired my license. I'd had enough of it.
Wow.
The lack of civility among some of the lawyers. Most of the lawyers are great, but when
Hmm.
you get someone who's really outrageous, it seems to happen a lot in family law.
Mm.
So I had about 5 years into my practice, I had my first pregnancy.
Oh,
And it was twins, and I was not
oh
ready
my
for
goodness.
that. My body
Wow.
just wasn't there. So I was pretty much forced to turn my practice over. My husband had joined my practice, so I couldn't drive, couldn't go to the courts. Anyways,
Wow.
so tough pregnancy. I came back to full-time practice after that and decided I just don't want to be on a court calendar. And the attorneys that I had to deal with, I just didn't need that stress in my life. And
Right.
that was when, actually, while I was pregnant, I started really studying more about mediation. Once the boys were born, I went into full-blown study mode and training mode. And then about a year into just a mediation practice is when some colleagues of mine said, hey, you should look at collaborative divorce. You'd be really good. And so 2007, exclusively mediations and co-mediations, and 2008 started added collaborative practice. So that's what brought me into it. It's just a healthier way. The clients that I work with today, it's not just meatball surgery. If what you're looking for is, I just want to be divorced, I just want what the law gives me, go to court. You'll find out what the law gives you. If you want to create agreements that are long lasting and that makes sense, help you plan for the future,
Mm-hmm.
then I'm definitely on board. We say that we have to answer today's questions, obviously, for the divorce, but we do so with an eye on what you're trying to accomplish moving forward.
That's so wonderful. And you just have truly like such a calming energy and demeanor about you. So
Thanks.
I think that obviously you know that you have found your niche, but just in speaking to you and what you portray out is just so nice. Find myself just slowly like relaxing while you're talking, even though you're talking about something so serious. So sure that is why you are so busy, because your clients have to absolutely love you and value you. Um, so let's look at this. What strategies do you employ to foster effective communication between divorcing parties during mediation sessions?
So these are such great questions because communication is a key piece. Usually people come in and they're not communicating at the same
Right.
level. You know, you've
Mm-hmm.
got one saying up and you have the other responding orange. You know, it's
Mm-hmm.
just
Right. Hence
not
why
at the
they're
same level. It's exactly, it's why they're there.
mm-hmm.
And it's crazy to me how often people think, oh, you know what, the communication was terrible, the emotions were just so high during the marriage, but now that we're going into a divorce, it's going to be better. We can do this. So and I've learned a lot through the years on how to effectively communicate more productively, right?
Mm-hmm.
In fact, it brings to mind a case where this one spouse would constantly arrive late, and it was such a trigger for the other spouse. And the spouse walked in and saw the other spouse that had already been there waiting for a while, and said, are you okay? You look really tired. And for me as an outsider, I thought, okay, so this person's trying to connect, trying to be sympathetic, apologizing in their own way, kind of thing. And
Uh-huh.
the other spouse looks at me and says, see, always a criticism, can never say anything nice to me.
It's
That's
all
the
about
communication
perception.
issue.
Yeah.
It is. So communication is what you say, and how you say it.
Mm-hmm.
It's also how you receive it.
Mm-hmm.
So what I do is I actually prefer working on with a team of professionals. I don't claim to be the expert in everything. So one of the tools that I use is, most of my cases, sometimes require my clients to bring in to retain a family specialist. That's a therapist. They are
Mm-hmm.
specially trained with the court system. They have experience in family law cases, as
Mm-hmm.
well as their therapy training. So they're not there to provide therapy, but what they are there to do is to improve the communication, provide tools for managing the emotions so that people can bring their best and highest self to make
Mm-hmm.
legal and financial decisions that make sense. In
That's so,
addition,
so wonderful.
I have, a lot of people, sometimes the finances don't really allow for bringing in a lot of professionals, although frankly, their money is better spent bringing in the therapist than using me as the therapist, right?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So I do also provide my clients, once I've been retained, they get access to a client portal. And in their client portal, there's a number of self-help tools that I've provided. One of them is a document called Our Language Matters. And it shows the contrast, a common one, my kids, and, he dropped off my son at the wrong time. And I'll stop people in mediation and say, I'm sorry, are there other children? Because I thought we were only dealing with the children between the two of you. Do you have children with someone else?
Yeah.
And they catch themselves. Or I'll help them kind of slow things down. We use a sandwich tool, and I'll model that for them. For example, okay, I just want to make sure, Marcia, that I'm hearing you correctly. You said that my demeanor makes you feel comfortable, but I'm just speaking too fast and you're not able to process. Did I get that right? So if I feel triggered that you said, Diana, you're just talking too fast, and Diana, you are doing all these mistakes, right?
Mm.
If I ask the question, it slows me down. It gives my heart time to calm down. So sometimes I don't even care what the answer is. I'm just trying to calm myself.
Yeah.
And it lets you know, I heard your question. So you'll either say, yes, that's what I said. You feel validated.
Right.
Or you'll
Active
say, no, you
listening. Yes.
completely misunderstood. So there's little
Right.
tools that we use in mediation to kind of get people more self-aware. That's
That's so wonderful. And I love to hear about how a court assigned therapists to be able to come in and truly it's and to help advocate for everybody so it allows you to do your job
yeah,
and that to each and the spouses to be able to plan and really think about it instead of like because obviously when we're feeling emotional those emotions can overwhelm and words can come out and behaviors and let's just be done and not thinking about the future, so that's so
yeah.
wonderful to
Think
be able
about
to
when
provide that.
if you've experienced a significant loss in your life, death of a close friend or a parent or a relative, and now we're going to ask you, by the way, how do you want to divide your retirement account?
Yeah.
How much do you need in spousal support? What does your co-parenting plan look like to you?
Yeah.
Okay. This isn't about, I've literally represented people who have written primers on financial matters. So without obviously disclosing my client, let's just say they
Mhm.
wrote the primer on banking and finance. Okay, they
Mhm.
actually wrote it. Could not do basic math. Could
Mm.
not do basic math. And I'm sitting there thinking, am I saying something wrong? The emotions, people just don't recognize how much those emotions really interfere with higher processing.
Oh god, absolutely, absolutely. And it again, nice to be able to provide some support in there and that to be so empathetic and just out of curiosity, have you so who do you usually bring into that like settlement agreement when you're meeting with the spouses?
So we create the team at the outset. I like
Okay.
to, if you think of it like you're building a house, you don't
Mhm.
just start laying foundation without having a design, without having already your roofer ready. You've got, your fireplace person, you've got paint, you've already got a team in place, right? Because you
Mhm.
need to lay that foundation in such a way that it's going to support everything.
Right.
And that's kind of how I approach these cases. So we start off oftentimes with a neutral family specialist, a neutral financial, and if it's a mediation, and then me, that's the team. If it's a collaborative, then both spouses or partners are going to have their own collaborative trained lawyer, and then we have the neutrals. And so we have all of that in place. We plan it out from the beginning. So we will have an initial meeting.
Mhm.
First, the professionals to kind of share what do we know about each of these parties, and then we have a full team meeting. Now, the way I like to do it, I like to provide a roadmap at the beginning because people often are so lost. They don't know which way to even look, let alone
Mhm.
step.
Mhm.
And so I have a number of documents that provide that roadmap. And then at that first meeting, we plan it out. when are you going to be meeting with the family specialist, whether it's a co-parenting plan or it's communication issues that they need to work on, or emotions. So we plan out, when are those meetings going to happen? We plan out the financial meetings. When are we going to get the required disclosures information so that we can start working on it? When are you going to get information to the financial so that they can start educating both of you on budgets, on tax implications, running scenarios? If you take these items and you take those and support is set at whatever, what does it look like in years 1 through 5 for mom? What does it look like 1 through 5 for dad? So by that point, when we come in to start making agreements, they already have all the information. It isn't, well, I'm not really sure what an apartment would cost. I'm not really sure what we could get for the house. So it's more meaningful. Ideally, we finish that initial, what we call the kickoff meeting, with a target completion date. And it fluctuates if, things happen. Right. Especially in the days of COVID, things happen. So if we have to
that
pause,
had to make things so difficult.
It really did. So I try to make sure people are making as informed decisions as they can. The mental health professionals, the therapists, are working with my clients to make sure that they are making progress, because a lot of times you have one person who's more motivated to be done than the other person.
Right.
So we have to deal with that. If they are a child specialist, if the family neutral is also a child specialist, they're helping with the co-parenting plan. Depending on the age of the children, they may also be talking with the children, helping the parents understand signs of divorce stress and how to manage that. So it is a lot. I tell people, the more time you spend in information gathering on all aspects, not just financial. People often think just financial. On all aspects of the family, of this, that are going to be needed to resolve this transition, the better your final agreements are going to be, the more prepared you're going to feel.
Absolutely.
So that's pretty much how we started. We started with the full team.
Which is great. And so I know we talked about this before, but you've never used a CDLP in the past to help with setting up and vetting and mortgage planning for spouses. And
I have, but not as part of the team. Oftentimes that'll come up, and it always makes it, in the beginning, it would always make me nervous because I don't know who they're talking to. And a lot of times the person that they're talking to does not understand mediation, does not understand the collaborative process. You have so many professionals. Why would you do that? Just go to the court, and you shouldn't be agreeing to this. And they go beyond their area of expertise because they don't know. They don't have the full picture.
You mean so like what I am is a certified divorce lender. You've found they've overstepped boundaries.
And I don't use them a lot, but I'm not saying that they have. I think it wasn't what you do. It was I think it was a realtor. It was a broker. It was a broker. And so my mind goes to, I don't know what this person knows or doesn't know about the process.
Got it.
Yeah.
Got it.
So it's really comforting to know that there's someone like you who actually does understand the process,
Thank you.
So I think that's hugely valuable. Huge.
Right. I do too. And when I became aware of this certification and to understand, I just thought it was, and I keep using this term, but it's the perfect marriage for me, having my master's in psychology, coming from the helping profession and working with people and truly wanting to empower and educate, and then to have my mortgage experience. This is just a great way to work with like a collaborative team and making sure, and because it is about providing information and showing options, and to know that there is to be life after divorce, and I love just what you do, and to help everybody into plan, and to know like, okay, even though to feel so heightened in your anxiety and emotions at this moment, knowing it's not going to stay like this. here's our plan and here's how we're going to work through it.
Yeah.
And
That's what
that's just,
attracted me to you specifically, was your psych background. I'm like, this is such a great pairing, because
thank
people,
you.
financials, just generally, brokers, realtors, they don't they don't seem to understand, and even in some instances shy away from that emotional aspect. And I
Hmm.
understand that it's uncomfortable. I don't like conflict. I am such a conflict averse person in my life.
Yeah,
It's just that when you're the one who's in it, having somebody who doesn't feed into the conflict more, having somebody who more productively helps you actually
right,
work through it, makes a
right.
difference. And you have to have some of that
Absolutely.
background.
Absolutely. And I think just in general, and it's, I mean, besides talking about divorce, working with divorcing spouses, but people even buying their home, like there's a lot of emotions selling their home and looking to buy whatever the situation, having to downsize, or
Yep.
take equity out. It's a very emotional
Yeah, it is.
experience.
And
And
making
depending
sure your
on what,
clients aren't making emotion-based decisions.
right.
That's where we have to be careful.
Absolutely, absolutely. And I think it's truly about talking and working through and setting up a plan of what, you want to see and how to accomplish that. And
100%. Yeah.
yes. Is there anything else that you think would be, I mean, I know that you are so knowledgeable and have so much experience. Oh, would you share really quick about what that you were helping to do with the new statute for
Yeah.
the
So,
family?
I mean, I don't know how much people would be interested in it, but so the family code is what governs family law.
Okay.
So when you go, and this piece is important for people to know,
Hmm.
um, if you want a judge to give you X amount of spousal support,
Okay.
or you want the judge to give you primary parental duties, custody, or you want to keep the house and not have to buy your spouse or partner out of the house,
Okay.
you have to show the judge what rule allows them to give you what you're asking for. And
Okay.
there are over 4,000 laws that may apply, right? You have to look at the civil code, the evidence code, the family code. Um, you have, and you have to look at the local rules on how you get the information into the judge.
Yes.
So we have a collaborative statute in California, and the statutes are all state by state. California Family Code Section 2013 is our collaborative statute. Well, that statute was drafted back in 2006 and enacted in 2007. And
Okay.
it's two little paragraphs. You guys, you can Google it, look it up. It's two little paragraphs that says the court has jurisdiction, has the power to oversee collaborative process cases.
Okay.
And this is what collaborative process means. That's it. So what's happened is county by county, it's practiced differently. A key component of a collaborative process is we use mediation confidentiality statutes that are found in the evidence code.
Okay.
Mediation confidentiality is quite strict. You, short of committing a crime, or there's very few exceptions to mediation confidentiality. So you can propose anything without it being used against you. You can gasp,
Okay. Okay. So during the
apologize.
mediation time okay. So what's
Exactly.
discussed
Very
is
confidential.
confidential.
So
Okay.
what's
Okay.
happened is it's being handled differently in different counties. There's no consistency. And as
Okay.
a result, we now have an appellate case on a case that was collaborative, transition to litigation, where they're trying to pull information out of the collaborative process.
Mm.
Okay. So what I've done is I've basically taken LA County local rule 5.26, which is the county rule.
Okay.
And I used some provisions that I liked in the Contra Costa County rules.
Okay.
Um, and I've updated the family code section 2013. So I'm on the family law executive committee with LA County Bar, and I'm on the forms and rules subcommittee. So that's what I've presented. We've made some significant changes. It'll probably be at least a year before it actually gets to the judicial committee and to the appropriations committee for it to be passed. But this is kind of the first step. I've done the amendment. I'm hoping to get LA County Bar support, and then eventually we'll get a senator to propose the legislation and move the amendment up through there. But yeah.
Wow, so
It's a
impressive.
process.
Absolutely, but so impressive, and how nice, because again, that's just part of you advocating for your clients and what you're doing, and to make sure that it stays confidential, and obviously not to have any kickback, or what, I'm not using the right word,
Well,
but
it covers more than confidential, because it covers how do you start the process. It covers what happens if you're in litigation and you decide to move it into collaborative. How does collaborative end? Who are the participants? Who's all the professionals, and what's their confidentiality? You know, for example, with the therapists, if they find out that there's child or elder abuse, or that you're
they have
potentially
to
a harm to
report.
yourself, they have to report. If people,
Absolutely.
my point is, I want people to know what they're getting into before they do it. Nobody tells you in litigation, hey, you might be in this for 3, 4, 5 years. Nobody talks about that in litigation, but nobody has to, because that's your norm, which
Right.
I think is a problem. And in fact, we have statutes where lawyers do have to tell, and it's not only statutes, it's our bar rules, our local California bar rules, where lawyers are obligated, and we have some rules of civility that cover this too, but lawyers are obligated to make sure that their clients understand there's more than one way to do this. You don't have to litigate. Here's why I think you have to, or here's where there might be risks in an out-of-court process for you. But clients are not informed when they go to most family lawyers. They just assume fight.
Right. Interesting. So that, I mean, in every profession, we have people that, whether you want to say good or bad or ethical and not so
Yeah.
much, but it's, again, it's just truly informing, you know, your client, so that
point.
they know, here are your
Be
options,
informed, yes.
right? Because
And it
that's
sets,
so huge.
I'm also a California State Bar fee arbitrator, so I act as a judge when there's disputes between clients and their attorneys, typically over
Okay.
fees. So I know the rules of ethics really, really
Wow.
well. But so I see, you know, the mistakes that lawyers make. I see the mistakes that clients make. You know, when you're given a fee agreement, you sign it, you're pretty much saying you've read it. So don't come back and say, oh, I didn't know I was going to be charged for emails, or for, you know, letters, or for phone calls. Read it. Okay,
Right.
that's
Right.
on you. Unfortunately, or, you know, the lawyers are actually at a higher level,
Right.
right?
Hold
That's
to
why
a
you've
higher
come to them.
standard.
Yeah.
Yes.
So, and most of them don't know these rules. A lot of them. Now,
Interesting.
a lot of them I think are well-meaning.
Mm-hmm.
It's just sometimes we only hear one side of the story in litigation, and we kind of
Mm-hmm.
feed into that, you know.
Mm-hmm.
And that's a mistake. You have to be able to keep that distance. But
Right.
that's why I love what I do now. And if I was in a situation where I couldn't, and I know some lawyers say, I don't know how you are able to survive just doing mediations. Well, number one, I don't have to go to court. So I have more time to
More
work. I can
time.
take on more
Right.
cases. I don't
Right.
make as much per case, but I can take on more cases.
And you're happier
I
and
am
more
way happier.
peaceful.
I'm way
And
happier. I still
something I
get
do.
high conflict cases. I do. And I'm trained for high conflict cases. Um, it's just that if they are willing to put the work in, meaning working with the therapist,
Mhm.
working with the right professionals, the child specialist, I am willing to put as much work in. I have to be careful that I'm not working harder than
Right,
them. I
right.
work hard and I will do what I can to get my clients to the point where they can now stand on their own.
Hmm.
If I'm working harder the entire time,
Yeah,
it's not a good match. You have to want it. You have to really want it.
absolutely. That's the same like as any kind of therapist or anybody when you can't
Yeah,
be putting in more work than your clients.
yeah,
They have to be vested absolutely
absolutely.
in
Yeah,
resolution and moving forward. So
yeah.
well, thank you so much for your time and information. It's just been absolutely lovely, and I look forward to talking with you again. So grateful you took the time out today, and it's been so informative. So thank you, and absolutely send me questions, and happy to answer and be here for you, and look forward to meeting you in person.